The sun rises over Tarija, a southern Bolivian city wrapped in celebration and history. Crowds fill the narrow colonial streets, waving red and white flags, chanting "Viva Bolivia" as fireworks crackle above the Plaza Luis de Fuentes. After years of deep political divides, Bolivia has chosen a new leader. Rodrigo Paz Zamora, a 58-year-old economist and senator from the Centre-Right Alliance, has just been declared the next president of the plurinational state of Bolivia. The announcement comes after a tense runoff against former President Jorge Quiroga, marking the end of 2 decades of socialist rule. The Supreme Electoral Tribunal confirmed the results late Sunday, with more than 97% of the votes counted. The tally is decisive, 54.5% for Paz against 45.4% for Quiroga. The numbers flash across television screens and cell phones nationwide, drawing cheers from the highlands of La Paz to the lowlands of Santa Cruz. Rodrigo Paz stands on a stage draped in the Bolivian flag. Behind him, supporters chant his name. His first words are measured, filled with emotion. "Viva Bolivia, viva la patria," he declares, raising his ballot in the air before casting it. His tone is both patriotic and reflective, an echo of his father, Jaime Paz Zamora, who governed the nation between 1989 and 1993. Now, the son inherits a country facing an even greater challenge, reviving an economy battered by inflation, unemployment, and falling gas exports. The crowd erupts in applause as he speaks again. "We have chosen unity over division," he says. "Our nation will move forward, not backward." Around him, young supporters wave banners reading "Renovación y Esperanza," renewal and hope. It's a slogan that's carried his campaign from Tarija's vineyards to Bolivia's mining towns and remote Andean villages. For much of the night, the Supreme Electoral Tribunal's digital screens displayed real-time updates. Cameras captured the moment when the final percentage tipped in Paz's favor. Outside the tribunal headquarters in La Paz, supporters gathered to watch. When the confirmation came, fireworks burst above the capital. Car horns echoed through the cold Andean air. It was, for many Bolivians, a night that symbolized the closing of a long political chapter and the uncertain opening of another. Rodrigo Paz's victory is not just a change in leadership, it's a turning point in ideology. For 20 years, Bolivia has been governed by socialist coalitions that expanded welfare programs and nationalized key industries. Those years brought both growth and controversy, massive infrastructure projects, but also corruption scandals, protests, and international isolation. Paz has promised to rebuild confidence in democratic institutions, attract private investment, and strengthen relations with neighboring countries and the United States. His economic background, shaped by studies in Europe and years in the Senate, has made him a moderate figure, one who balances free market reforms with social welfare protections. But challenges loom large. Bolivia's economy is experiencing its worst crisis in 4 decades. The national deficit has surged, foreign reserves have dwindled, and inflation has eaten into family incomes. Many industries, especially natural gas and lithium, long considered Bolivia's crown jewels, have been underperforming due to global market shifts and domestic mismanagement. In his first post-election remarks, Paz acknowledged the hardship. "We face a mountain of difficulties," he said, "but Bolivians have never been afraid of climbing mountains." Across Tarija, the mood remains jubilant. Supporters fill the streets with music and flags. Some carry posters of Jaime Paz Zamora, celebrating a family legacy that spans generations. Older residents recall the elder Paz's democratic transition in the 1980s, a period that restored civilian government after years of dictatorship. For them, Rodrigo's election feels like a return to political civility, though one tempered by high expectations. Yet not everyone celebrates. In Santa Cruz, the country's economic powerhouse and stronghold of conservative politics, some voters express skepticism. Jorge Quiroga's supporters claim that media coverage favored Paz throughout the campaign. Others fear that economic reforms could widen inequality or weaken regional autonomy. Political analysts, however, see Paz's centrist tone as a unifying factor. "He's a bridge figure," says one commentator in La Paz. "Not as radical as the socialists, not as rigid as the right. That could help Bolivia heal. The road to this moment has been anything but smooth. The campaign season was marked by sharp debates, occasional protests, and the shadow of past instability. At one point, tensions flared after a televised debate when Quiroga accused Paz of representing the old elites. Paz countered calmly, saying, "I represent Bolivians who work, not ideologies that divide." His calm demeanor contrasted sharply with Quiroga's combative tone, a style difference that many voters say influenced their choice. As dawn breaks on Monday, international reactions begin to pour in. Messages of congratulations arrive from across Latin America. Argentina's President Javier Milei sends a note emphasizing shared commitment to economic freedom and regional cooperation. Chile's government calls for renewed dialogue on border and trade issues. From Washington, the White House releases a statement expressing hope for a stable and prosperous Bolivia under democratic leadership. Even Havana and Caracas, long allies of Bolivia's socialist governments, issue cautious but respectful remarks, urging continuity in bilateral relations. At the same time, Bolivia's streets are quiet but reflective. Markets in El Alto open early. Radio hosts discuss the result with callers, some hopeful, others weary. In Cochabamba, farmers interviewed by AFP TV say they want action, not rhetoric. "We want jobs, not speeches," one man says, holding a small Bolivian flag. That sentiment, captured in countless interviews, underscores the weight on Paz's shoulders. He inherits a divided country, one struggling to balance its indigenous heritage with modern development. The movement towards socialism, MAS, which dominated Bolivian politics for 2 decades, still holds significant influence in parliament and local governments. Their leaders have vowed to provide constructive opposition. Analysts warn that legislative gridlock could slow economic recovery, yet Paz seems prepared. "Dialogue is not weakness," he told reporters. "It's how nations move forward." In his victory speech, delivered under the open night sky in Tarija, Paz's words carried a mix of humility and resolve. This triumph belongs not to one man, but to millions of Bolivians who voted for peace, for progress, and for the dignity of our nation. His supporters responded with chants of "Rodrigo Presidente" echoing through the plaza. Throughout the campaign, Paz emphasized education, decentralization, and green energy, promising to transform Bolivia's lithium resources into a foundation for sustainable growth. He has also pledged to reform public institutions, strengthen judicial independence, and combat corruption. Observers say these goals will require both political finesse and international partnerships. Bolivia must regain trust, abroad and at home, said an AFP TV correspondent covering the results. Paz knows that the first 100 days will define his presidency. As he walks through a sea of supporters, television cameras capture close-ups of his handshake, his smile, and his eyes, slightly weary but determined. For many Bolivians, those images represent hope, cautious but real. In La Paz, murals already appear with the phrase "Renace Bolivia," Bolivia reborn. On social media, hashtags like #Nueva Bolivia and #Paz Presidente trend across the country. Meanwhile, outside the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, officials finalize the certification of results. The tribunal's chairperson confirms the outcome, noting a record voter turnout of over 82%. "It's a victory for democracy," she says. Election observers from the Organization of American States and the European Union commend the process as transparent and peaceful, despite minor technical delays. As night deepens, the capital settles into a rare calm. Music from Tarija still drifts across television broadcasts, folk guitars, drums, and the collective voice of a nation longing for renewal. The next morning, front pages across Bolivia bear the same headline: Rodrigo Paz, elected president. For many, the photo beneath, a smiling man raising his hand against a backdrop of flags, marks not just a new presidency, but a new beginning. In a country accustomed to political swings and social tension, the days ahead will test whether unity can truly replace division. As Paz prepares to take office, the world watches closely. Bolivia, rich in natural resources and cultural diversity, stands at a crossroads between past ideologies and future possibilities. The voice of Rodrigo Paz echoes once more from the podium. This is not the victory of a party, but the victory of a people who refuse to lose hope. The crowd answers with cheers and chants, the night illuminated by flashes of fireworks. In that moment, brief, brilliant, and filled with promise, Bolivia begins to turn a new page in its history.